Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine you've just been in a car accident. You're shaken, maybe hurt, definitely feeling vulnerable.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in.
Absolutely. And you're trying to figure out what happens next. When your phone rings, it's someone offering free medical help, maybe even legal support. Sounds like a lifeline, right?
Well, it would seem like it.
Right.
But what if that help was actually part of something else, like a complex, alleged scheme designed to exploit your situation just for profit?
It's a really stark scenario.
It is. And what's truly fascinating here, I think, is how a common human vulnerability,
Hmm.
that immediate need for care and clarity after something sudden, traumatic, how that can be systematically targeted.
Right.
So today we're diving into a really powerful legal complaint filed by the state of Alabama. It details just such a scenario, laying out some serious allegations against a whole network. We're talking medical clinics, law firms, individuals.
Whole network. Okay. So our mission in this deep dive is to basically trace the threads of this alleged operation. How were victims first contacted? What was this treatment really like?
And the legal representation side, too. Some surprising details there.
Exactly. We'll look at how the state of Alabama is trying to untangle this pretty intricate web and ultimately protect consumers.
And just to be clear up front, everything we're discussing today comes straight from that legal complaint. These are allegations the state has brought forward.
Right. Important distinction. Not proven facts yet, but they certainly paint a vivid picture of a potential scheme.
Definitely.
So where does something like this even begin? Let's set the scene a bit. Personal injury law, especially for car accidents. It's a fiercely competitive world, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You see the ads everywhere. Firms are constantly looking for clients. It's high stakes.
Yeah.
And in that kind of environment, the state contends that some players turn to brokers, often called runners, to get an inventory of potential accident claims.
Runners, like middlemen.
Basically, yeah. And the complaint highlights some pretty, well, shocking alleged methods for getting accident information.
Yeah.
Sometimes it claims illicitly from law enforcement.
No way. Really?
Yeah, I mean, think about this. There was a separate case referenced. A D.C. police officer found guilty in a bribery scheme for selling victim contact info to a runner.
How much are we talking?
The claim was they allegedly earned between $600 and $1,300 a week, netted over $15,000 for info on more than 2,000 victims.
Wow. That's staggering.
It is. And beyond law enforcement, the Alabama complaint alleges these runners frequently partner with medical professionals. Often, chiropractic clinics seem to be the go-to.
Okay, so they weren't just like randomly calling people, they were targeting specific individuals based on police reports.
That seems to be the allegation. Incredibly calculated. The complaint outlines this sort of structured model where telemarketers allegedly review police reports, looking for people marked as not at fault.
The ones most likely to have a claim.
Exactly. They become prime targets for these calls. It sounds like a really systematic approach.
Okay, so they've identified these not at fault people. Then what? We move into phase one, right? The cold call itself.
Yeah, the alluring cold call as the complaint paints it. The runners would allegedly call up victims pretending to be a patient insurance advocate.
An advocate, like from the victim's own insurance company.
Sometimes, yeah. Or they might even claim to be from the at-fault party's insurance. Just trying to sound official. No.
Okay. And what were they promising?
Very specific things. Free medical treatment at this one particular clinic, South Alabama Medical and Rehab Clinic, LLC, or SAMR.
Free treatment sounds good when you're hurt.
Of course. And they allegedly added pressure, telling victims they had to report to the clinic, saying things like, the sooner you come in, the better the treatment.
Creating urgency.
Right. And here's a telling detail from the complaint. If the victim asked for the caller's actual name, these advocates would just give a fake one.
So deception right from the first contact, and how are they coordinating this?
Well, the complaint mentions the Signal messaging app. It alleges the runners would schedule appointments and then message the clinic staff using Signal.
So pretty organized then, not just random calls.
Doesn't sound like it. The state argues the clinic defendants knew about these deceptive practices, maybe even helped develop them, and definitely accepted the benefit.
All right, so the cold call works. The victim agrees to go. What happens when they actually walk into SAMR? This is phase two, the clinic experience.
And this is where the nature of the treatment allegedly gets really questionable. First off, the name SAMR. The complaint argues it was deliberately chosen to cause confusion with a legitimate local provider, the University of South Alabama, USA Health.
Trying to sound like a known entity.
Exactly. And adding to that, SAMR allegedly falsely presented itself as a chiropractic clinic for a while.
Okay, but what about the actual care?
Well, that's the core of it. The state claims the treatment wasn't really designed for the patient's well-being at all. It was purely, allegedly, to maximize the settlement value of their accident case later on.
How so? What kind of treatment are we talking about?
Things described as a regimen of passive therapy, like a track bed, water bed, stretching, hot and cold packs, TNS stimulation, stuff like that.
Passive therapy.
Mhm.
Okay, but the really crucial part.
The complaint states patients were never seen by or cared for by a doctor.
Never seen by a doctor. In a medical clinic, that's a huge
And it's a
allegation.
very serious claim. The complaint names names, too. Chad Lovelace, allegedly instructing non-licensed chiropractors. Michael Kent Planback, supposedly the hiring authority. Stephanie Wilson, the clinic manager, described as the liaison with runners and kind of the salesperson for the lawyers.
A whole cast of characters. And what about proper diagnosis, if there's no doctor?
Right, the lack of thorough evaluations is another big point. The complaint alleges some victims had undiagnosed injuries, serious things like ruptured vertebrae or meniscus tears, because getting x-rays or MRIs was reportedly denied unless the attorney defendants gave special approval.
The lawyers had to approve medical tests.
That's the allegation. And meanwhile, the clinic website, according to the complaint, was falsely claiming a doctor was the lead provider and that they did thorough evaluations.
Okay, so let's circle back to that free treatment promise. How did that actually work out for the patients financially?
Yeah, that's the catch, isn't it? The complaint claims patients weren't billed through their insurance at all.
No insurance billing.
None.
Mm.
Instead, the state says they were, and I quote, scammed into assuming legal responsibility for medical bills based on the grossly inflated rate of 800 hours for a nurse practitioner.
$800 an hour for a nurse practitioner.
That's the alleged rate. And Stephanie Wilson, the clinic manager, reportedly admitted SAMR does not bill insurance companies. So that free treatment, it was actually setting them up for a massive bill they'd be legally on the hook for.
Wow, leveraging that immediate need for care to lock them into these huge hidden costs.
Seems to be the core of the alleged financial scheme.
Okay, so they're getting this questionable treatment, racking up these huge alleged bills.
Yeah.
What's next? This leads to phase 3, right? The attorney hook.
Exactly. So after they've started this treatment, patients, now described in the complaint as being under duress to complete the necessary steps to obtain free treatment. That's when they were allegedly presented with an attorney fee agreement.
From specific law firms.
Yes, from one of the attorney defendants named in the suit. Dolinsky Law Group, DLG, or Vaychek Law Group, VLG.
And how did they convince patients to sign up with these particular lawyers?
Well, allegedly through more pressure, patients were reportedly told the agreement was time-sensitive, or maybe that the firm was running a special low-contingency fee, where the lawyer takes a smaller cut, but only if they signed right now.
High-pressure sales tactics, basically.
Seems like it. And worse, the complaint highlights this patient acknowledgement form. Patients were supposedly required to sign it, and it made them falsely deny they were ever solicited by a patient insurance advocate.
Whoa. So basically forcing them to sign something that covers up the alleged illegal solicitation.
That's a huge red flag, yeah.
Oh.
It directly contradicts how they allegedly got there in the first place.
And who were the key players on the legal side mentioned in the complaint?
Robert Dolinsky, founder or partner of DLG, is alleged to have actually participated in calls with victims at SAMR, even though he wasn't licensed to practice law in Alabama.
Not licensed, but talking to potential clients?
That's the allegation. Similarly, John Baker and Adore VLG also allegedly participated in these calls and hid their relationship or the scheme from the victims.
And there was an Alabama licensed attorney involved.
Yes, Tiffany Tolliver. The complaint alleges she worked for DLG and intentionally lent her Alabama law license as cover for DLG and Dolinsky. It claims she knew Dolinsky and others were personally soliciting or interacting with victims at SAMR.
So providing local legitimacy for an operation allegedly run by out-of-state actors.
That appears to be the state's argument.
Okay, this is getting complicated. What if a victim caught on or just decided they didn't like this setup and wanted to hire their own lawyer? Could they just walk away?
This is where it allegedly gets really coercive. If a victim decided not to hire DLG or VLG and instead got their own independent lawyer, their new lawyer would suddenly be presented with a medical provider, lien, from SAMR.
Oh, lien, a claim for payment, right?
Exactly. A claim against any settlement money the victim might get. But this lien, according to the complaint, misrepresented that services from a doctor have been rendered.
Even though the complaint says there was no doctor on staff.
Precisely. That's the core of that allegation. And furthermore, it's alleged the defendants would just refuse to negotiate these fraudulently inflated limbs.
So they wouldn't budge on the $800 charge?
Apparently not, which made it, quote, economically impossible to settle the victim's actual car accident claim with the insurance company.
Because the medical bill was so huge and non-negotiable.
Right. The complaint argues this effectively constructed a scenario to hold the accident victims hostage to the attorney defendants. If you didn't use their lawyers, your case was basically stuck.
Hostage. That's
Right.
incredibly strong language. And there are even more allegations, right? Beyond just the liens.
Yes, some really troubling ones. The complaint alleges DLG and/or Dolinsky fraudulently kept negotiating for a client after the client fired them.
Still acting like their lawyer even when they weren't.
That's the claim. And in one instance, they allegedly settled a victim's claim in April 2025 without the client even knowing, let alone authorizing it.
Settled without consent. Did the client get the money?
The complaint says they failed to tender any settlement money to the client. And it even states a forged client endorsement appeared on the settlement check.
Forgery. Wow. Okay, these are some extremely serious allegations.
Absolutely grave, which is why the state of Alabama, through the Mobile County DA, brought this complaint under the Alabama Deceptive Trade Practices Act. They want to shut this down.
And that act covers a lot of ground, doesn't it?
It really does. The complaint lists several violations. Things like causing confusion about who's providing the service, misrepresenting the service's benefits, advertising stuff with no intent to sell it as advertised.
Like the free treatment.
Exactly. Also, engaging in a scheme or artifice to defraud by telephone communication. That's the cold calling. And just broadly, any other unconscionable, false, misleading, or deceptive act. It's a wide net.
So what are they asking the court to do right now?
They've requested an emergency ex parte, temporary restraining order, a TRO, and a preliminary injunction. Ex parte means they want it issued fast without the defendants initially present, because they argue the harm is immediate and ongoing.
And the argument for that is?
That citizens face immediate and irreparable harm, that there's no other legal way to fix this quickly enough, and that the state believes it has a very strong chance of winning the case eventually. They also note the defendants were apparently notified about the investigation beforehand and didn't fully comply with subpoenas.
Okay, and what specific actions do they want the court to order? What would this TRO actually do?
It's pretty comprehensive. They want the court to immediately stop the defendants from cold calling accident victims, period.
Stop the solicitation.
Yes. And stop them from providing any medical or legal services to people who were solicited this way. Also, crucially, stop the use of those medical provider liens that allegedly falsely claim doctor services.
Get rid of a hostage mechanism.
And prevent the use of those patient acknowledgement forms that deny the solicitation happened. But maybe most impactful for future consumers.
Yeah.
They're asking the court to mandate that the clinic defendants post prominent notices right there on their premises.
Notices? What would they say?
Key things, like informing patients they could have costs covered by insurance, but this clinic chooses not to bill insurance, that patients aren't immediately getting x-rays or scans, and this could be harmful.
Transparency, basically.
Exactly. Notices stating there's no doctor on duty, that the services are limited compared to other places, and maybe the biggest one, that the clinic or its associates paid for the phone call the patient received, and the clinic isn't associated with any insurance company.
Wow. Pulling back every layer of the alleged deception.
That seems to be the goal, trying to make it impossible for anyone else to walk in without knowing exactly what they're dealing with, according to the state's view.
This whole case, these allegations, they really underscore how important it is to question things, doesn't it? Especially when you're vulnerable.
Absolutely. Understand the fine print, question things that sound too good to be true. It shows the incredible lengths some entities might allegedly go to basically commoditize human suffering for profit.
It really does. And it brings up a big question for you, our listener. In this age where information is everywhere but not always accurate, how do you verify if an offer is legitimate, especially one that comes right when you're in a moment of real need?
Yeah, think about the layers described here, the alleged false identities, the misleading promises, the hidden costs, the whole system seemingly designed to trap people.
What stands out to you as the most significant lesson here? About protecting yourself, about being vigilant, especially when something seems like that perfect, easy solution to a sudden, difficult problem. Something to definitely think about.